Okay, so I'm back, and I just decided to cut that one down a little bit so it wouldn't get, 20, 30, 40 minutes long. I get to talking and time gets away. So human blood groups. So we've talked about genetics and how you understand the difference between dominant and recessive and what an allele is. And so with human blood groups, we have three different alleles. So you have an A, a B, and an O. And so the way that is determined is your red blood cells have some kind of chemical that we call a glycoprotein, and they have these different glycoproteins. They're called antigens. And so an antigen is something that causes that our body sees as foreign and causes an immune response. Okay, so our red blood cells have these little, I'm just going to put a little dot on them that represents something, and that is this glycoprotein that we call an antigen, and our bodies recognize that as foreign. So for example, if you had a bacteria come into your body and it has antigens on it, your body will recognize that as foreign, and you'll send out antibodies. This is what these little Y things are, to kind of go and tag it and mark it so that then your immune cells can come and be kind of brought to that foreign invader, and it can be destroyed. Okay? But in blood groups, these antigens will cause it'll kind of grab these antibodies will grab these red blood cells. They will bind to those antigens and cause the red blood cells to kind of clump together. And we call that agglutination. Okay? So your red blood cells have antigens on them, which are markers. And then in your plasma, you have these antibodies floating around. And so if these antibodies recognize those antigens, they will grab the red blood cells and cause them to clump or agglutinate. And so we call these antigens agglutinogens. They cause agglutination. So antigens are agglutinogens. They cause red blood cells to agglutinate if they're in another person's body. Not your own blood doesn't do this. This is we're talking about if you get a transfusion or something like that. So again, more details coming. This is kind of complex. There are four major blood groups, and they're determined by either having A antigens or B antigens or no antigens. Okay, so that's how we get our blood groups. So if you have either the A, the B, or nothing, that determines if you have A blood or B blood or AB blood or O blood. Okay, those are the four blood types: A blood, B blood, AB blood, and O blood. We'll get to the positive negative thing in a minute. That'll just add to the confusion. So group A, okay, this means that your blood, okay, if you have A blood, that means your red blood cells have a little, not really a little A on them, but they have an A antigen, okay? That's what they have, all right? And in the plasma, they have an antibody that's anti-B, okay? Anti-B. You wouldn't want an antibody in your own blood that's anti-A, because then you would attack your own blood. Make sense? We'll get there. We're gonna keep repeating this. Group B blood. If you have B blood, that means your red blood cells have a B on them, or a B antigen. Okay, and the antibodies in your plasma have they're anti-A, because you wouldn't want them to be anti-B, because you would attack your own blood. If you have a B blood, that means your cells have the little A and the B antigens. You have both. So you're not going to have any antibodies in your plasma because you don't want to attack yourself, because there's only a choice of having an A and a B antibody. So you don't have either one. Again, we're going to do this over and over. You'll get the hang of it. If you have O blood, then your blood cells don't have anything on them. That gives you O-type blood. But you have both of the antibodies, okay, in your blood. All right. So this is important when we talk about transfusions. So if you don't know your blood type, and you just can't go randomly giving blood to each other, because if I have A blood and you have B blood, there's going to be some kind of transfusion reaction. So it's really important for you to type the blood, because these transfusion reactions causes this agglutination, this clumping, and that can cause fatal problems. And we're going to do some more talking about that. So again, you have these three alleles: big A, or big IA, big IB, and little I. But again, for me, we're going to say A, B, and O. It's just easier to keep up with that way. So what does that I stand for? It stands for immunoglobulin. All right, and so that's what kind of draws the white blood cell to attack. So that's why we'll give it the I designation. And remember, we talked about with hair color and eye color, like you had big B, little b. Well, in blood types, the A and the B are co-dominant. Okay, so if you have A and B, then you have AB blood. The little I or the O is the recessive one. Okay, so again, we're going to use A, B, and O to just kind of simplify it. So let's go back to genotypes and phenotypes. All right, so this is what it would look like in your textbook and probably everywhere else. I'm just going to simplify it for you. Your genotype is going to be little I, little I. Okay, well, for us, we're going to say that's just OO. So that's the genotype. The phenotype is O blood. If your genotype is big IA, or big IA and little I, or AAAO, you have A blood. If you have the big B's, so big B, BO, you have B blood. If you have both the A and the B, you have AB blood. Okay, so these are your genotypes. Okay, they're simplified genotypes, and these are your phenotypes. All right. So we can do those same kind of things that we did before as far as blonde hair, blue eyes, if we want to do this with blood types. So let's say both the father and mother have type O blood. And that's all I've told you. They have type O blood. We'll go back to the previous slide. The only way to get type O blood, okay, is to have that genotype. So we're going to say dad, here's the father, here's the mother. Dad has OO, mom has OO. Are they homozygous or heterozygous? They're homozygous for O blood. So this means, put this one together, OO, 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 OO. All right, so dad has OO, mom has OO. The genotypic ratio of the children is 100%. It's going to be OO blood. The phenotype, 100% is going to have O blood. So the genotype would be OO and the phenotype would be O blood. All right. Let's say the father is type A homozygous and the mother is type B homozygous. All right. So let's say dad is homozygous for A. So let's go back to our chart. Well, blood type A can be AA or AO. Which one of these is homozygous? That one. So we say, okay, dad is A, mom is homozygous B, B. So A, B, B, AB, 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 AB. All right, so the genotype, 100% of the children will be AB, and the phenotype, 100% of the children will be AB blood. All right, let's do one more, and I've got a worksheet that I'm going to post for you to practice as well. Let's say you have a dad who is heterozygous B. Heterozygous B. So what are my choices for B? BB or BO? Which one's heterozygous? BO. So dad is BO. Let's say mom is AB. So mom is AB. So now we have A, B, 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 A, O, and B, O. All right, wow, so our children could have all types of blood. So let's see, so you would have the genotypic ratio would be 1 to 1 to 1 to 1. So you would have AB to BB to AO to BO. That's the genotype. What's the phenotypic ratio? You have 1 A blood, this one. You have 2 B bloods, and you have 1 AB blood. So it would be 25% A, 50% B, 1% AB blood. That's how that works. And again, you'll have some worksheets to practice on this. All right, so remember, when we're talking about figuring out the type, we're thinking about those antigens. So I really like this slide because it kind of puts everything together. So here's your red blood cells, all right, and so we put those little antigens on there. So on here, the antigen is, for A, is this little blue dot. For antigen B, we have the little purple triangle. For AB, we have both of them, and on O, we have neither, okay? So here's a red cell with antigen A. It's got the little antigen A. Well, the way antigens and antibodies work, they're kind of like a lock and key. So if you'll notice, so if you have this shape, then the antibody is going to kind of be the mirror image of that so that it can lock on and then cause that agglutination process and call those white blood cells to come in and destroy the cells. And so and this is, if you're the person, here's your red blood cells, and you've got red blood cells with these A antigens on them, all right? That means you have type A blood because your cells have A antigens. Your plasma has the anti-B antibodies, okay? So notice that shape does not match your antigens, so it's not going to clump up your own blood, okay? If you have red cells with the B antigen, okay, that means you have type B blood. In your plasma, your antibodies are anti-A. Look at that shape. They're going to attack those guys, not yourself. They're going to attack. So if someone gave you blood that was type A, it would attack that and get rid of it. Notice these anti-B, they match the B antigens, okay? If you have AB blood, your blood cells have both of those antigens, but no antibodies because you don't want to attack your own blood. So there's not going to be any antibodies there to grab that blood and cause it to agglutinate. If you have O blood, that means you don't have any antigens whatsoever. So you have naked cells, all right? But you will attack any A or any B. You have both anti-A and anti-B antibodies, okay? Make sense? It'll take a little practice. There's also some really cool websites, the American Red Cross, several websites. It doesn't take long to be able to practice this online, and hopefully we'll find some and I can post those for you in Blackboard. All right, because this is important when you're thinking about who you can give blood to and who can get your blood. So this is the donor and this is the recipient, okay? And so let's say the donor, let's say like me, I have O blood. And so if I have O blood, so here's my red blood cell, all right? Do I have any antigens on it? No, I don't have any antigens. Now when you donate, we're talking about really packed red blood cells here, really. So there's really not any plasma left. You're just giving packed red blood cells. And even if it's whole blood, there's really not enough plasma in the donor blood to cause any kind of transfusion reaction. So what you're really talking about is the plasma in the recipient. That's really the plasma you're worried about, those antibodies. All right? You're not really worried about any plasma that might be coming over from the O blood. So your donor, you're giving those packed, those red cells with no antigens. All right? So can it go to O blood? Yes, because there's not going to be right. O can give to O. If you give O blood to A, all right, so think about what A has. What antibodies does A have in it? It has anti-B. Well, that's not anti-O, so it's okay. All right, O can give to B. What kind of antibodies does B have in it? Anti-A. Well, that's not anti-O, so it's still okay. O can give to AB because AB has nothing. They don't have any. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. All right. A blood. So this is, A blood has the A antigen, all right. Can it give to O? O has A and B. So no, it's going to react. Can't do it. Can A give to A? Self can always give to self. The same letter can always give to the same letter. So yes, A can give to A. Can A give to B? Nope. You got that anti-A. Can A give to AB? Sure, because there's no antibodies to react to it. B. Can B give to O? Nope. Can B give to A? Nope. Can B give to B? Yes. Can B give to AB? Yes. AB. AB has the A and the B. It can only give to AB, okay, because everybody else is going to react to it because they either have the anti-A or the anti-B or both. So that's what they're doing when they're looking at your blood type and seeing who can give to who, all right? Unfortunately, that's not the end of the story because you've probably been told, oh, I've got A positive, I've got A negative, I'm O positive, I'm O negative. Where did that positive negative come from? Well, that's another set of antigens. So we add another antigen to your blood called the Rh negative, Rh antigen, and we're going to give it this shape here, this little purple shape. All right. So if you look at having this Rh antigen, if your cells have that, you are considered positive. Okay. All right. And so what happens is there's an anti-Rh antibody. So let's make our little antibody and say it's the Rh antibody. We don't have these in R negative people, okay? So if you have the Rh antigen, would you have the Rh antibody? No, because remember, you don't form antibodies to your own antigens. If I have A blood, I don't have an A antigen, A antibody, correct? If I have positive blood, then I don't have Rh. So you kind of assume that someone that's Rh negative is going to have that antibody. Well, they don't really have it. They have to form those later on. You don't naturally have them. But what happens is you do form these antibodies if you're ever exposed to something that is Rh positive. Okay, so this becomes very important in talking about pregnant women. We're going to talk about what happens if a Rh negative mother has a Rh positive child. Okay, and we're going to talk about that later. All right, because again, you don't naturally have these Rh antibodies unless you're exposed to something that's Rh positive, and we'll talk about that later. So if you have O blood, if you're O negative, then you don't have any antigens to anything. If you are O positive, there's no A, no B, but you have those little Rh antigens. If you're A negative, you have just the A. If you're A positive, you have the A and the Rh. If you're B, you have B. If you're B negative, you have B. If you're B positive, you have the B and the Rh. If you're AB negative, you have the A and the B, no Rh's. If you're AB positive, then you have to have all three. And so now when you cross-type blood, you've got to look not only at can positives give to positive, or positive gives to negatives, negatives gives to negatives. You've got to look at that as well. So now positives can give to positives, okay? Negatives can give to positives, but positives cannot give to negatives, okay? So if I'm O positive, I can give to another O positive person, but I cannot give it to O negative. So when you go back to this chart, then you have to start adding in your positive and your negative, okay? So if I'm O positive, then I can only give to someone that's O positive, all right? I can't give to someone that's O negative. So in the lab, and you guys will kind of do a virtual version of this, we do a lab test where we actually test everyone's blood and figure out what you have. And so you have a card, and it has serum in it, or plasma basically, that has those antibodies. So in this side we have a little vial or a little dish that's got the anti-A serum. Anti-A serum means it's got the anti-A antibodies, so that's from somebody with B blood, okay? In this well, we have anti-B antibodies, okay? So these are going to attack people, it's going to attack the B antigen. That means it's coming from someone with A blood, all right? So what we're doing is now we're going to show you what the reaction would look like. So if you take red blood cells from a donor and then put it into these wells, what's going to happen? Well, if I take someone who has type AB blood, remember they have A and B antigens, which we call agglutinogens. They're going to cause clumping if they react with those antibodies. If I put type AB blood into both of these wells, remember I've got anti-A and anti-B. So see all this clumping? That's agglutination. So that tells me that this sample is an AB sample. So if I don't know what it is, so I just take a random drop of blood, I have no idea what it is, and I drop it into this well and this well, I'll look for the reaction. So in this case, I've got agglutination. That means that these anti-A antibodies recognized A antigens and caused clumping. That means it's A blood, okay? In this one, pretend I don't know what kind of blood it is. I've put the blood in, all right? I put the blood in, I've watched it, it's clumping. So what caused it to clump? That means it reacted with the B antibodies, right? So that means it's B blood. It had the B antigens. Okay, so that's how you know. Type O, I put it in there. There's no antigens, so it's not going to react with either set of antibodies, so you're going to get O blood. All right? Now you can add a third well, which is called anti-D, and this is the RH. Okay? And RH comes from the word rhesus monkey, and that's where we first figured this whole positive negative thing out. But on the blood test, we call it anti-D. And so if you have a blood sample and you drop it in there, and so now we have the anti-A antibodies, we have the anti-B antibodies, and we have the anti-RH antibodies. All right, I've dropped the blood in there. I'm getting clumping, right? I'm getting clumping and then no clumping. All right, so if I'm getting clumping with the A, so let's look over at our chart. So I've got clumping here. Okay, so I've got clumping, and then I've got my anti-D clumping. I have A positive blood. All right, so what I want you guys to do is just kind of make your own square at home, and I want you to just kind of draw these out with your anti-A, anti-B, anti-D, and controls. You always put a control to make sure your card's actually valid and working. And you want to figure out, okay, if I drop in A blood, if I drop in O positive blood, if I drop in A negative blood, what pattern am I going to get? Okay, because you're going to see some questions. You're going to see basically this on the exam, and you've got to tell me that. So you've got to be able to read one of these squares and tell me what kind of blood it is. All right, that's how that's going to work. All right, so that's the end of this particular lab. That's long enough. I've spent enough time talking about this. Again, we'll try to find you some cool websites to play with, and then in the next talk, we're going to talk about some disorders that have to do with bad transfusions. All right, thanks a lot. See you next time.